introduction of bills.
Mr. Speaker, could I have your leave to make a request of you?
No, it is denied. Continue.
This is the head of an intelligence agency speaking. But Sir John was also careful to make clear the limits of openness. MI6 depends on secret agents willing to betray secrets. Any suggestion their identities might be exposed would make them less willing to spy for Britain and work with MI6. Being able to tackle the threats the country faces depends on secrecy, Sir John argued. But just how much secrecy is required and where the boundaries should lie will remain a matter of debate inside MI6 as well as outside. In other words, ladies and gentlemen, the Prime Minister has, for yet another occasion, come to the Parliament and made statements about a security agency in a matter that not only is prejudicial to the work of the agency, but prejudicial to the security of the state. It is most important. No law-abiding citizen has anything to fear from any security agency. And I'd like to give you all 4 examples of how the work of security agencies could impact on individuals. In 1977, Hector McLean was acting Attorney General. And in that capacity, a report came across his desk about his own actions that startled him, but it came to the attention of security agencies because of someone with whom he was associated. The second example I'd like to make is in 1991, I sought to raise money for the PNM, and in that capacity hit the road and visited a certain company in San Fernando on a particular day. And as soon as I got back to my office, my telephone rang. And a member of the special branch said to me, "Did you visit such and such a person today?" I said, "Yes." And they said, "We would like to suggest that you no longer visit that person. That person is the subject of attention by our agents." Number 2. The third example that I would like to draw to your attention is a cottage meeting that we had in San Fernando on a particular day in a particular house. And after the cottage meeting, we normally will have refreshments, and we did that particular night. 2 days later, I had a visit from a member of the special branch. And he said to me, "You are at a cottage meeting in a certain house." I said, "Yes." He said, "Are you aware that living in that house is somebody who deals in drugs?" I said, "No, I didn't know. I didn't know." He said, "Well, not only that, but on the night in question, the person was not at home, but came home while the meeting was in progress. And when he saw the police vehicles, he decided not to stay. Not to stay. Now, the police informed me of that. I was Prime Minister. The police informed me of that. And if I thought that that would have been the end of the matter, I would be very naive. The intelligence agencies then had a responsibility to check the association of the Prime Minister with the individual to ensure that it was a casual association and not part of something far more sinister that could be prejudicial to the interests of the state. In other words, the Prime Minister was the subject of attention of an intelligence agency. I want to draw your attention to a final issue, not in Trinidad and Tobago, but in England. In the year, I think the year was 1964. The person involved was the British Defense Minister. His name was John Profumo, the British Defense Minister. And he was caught having a liaison with a British prostitute. It turns out that she also was having a liaison at the time with the Soviet defense attaché in London, and a major national security matter flared up. The result of it was that John Profumo lost his job, and the Soviet defense attaché, because of British sensitivities, was recalled to the Soviet Union. He was recalled to Moscow. I have no doubt that when he got to Moscow, he was honored in some way. That is the way intelligence agencies operate. And if in the course of the work of intelligence agencies, they come up on the associations of individuals who are upstanding citizens in the country, associations that are of concern to them, they have a responsibility to investigate it. It becomes then not a matter of who you are, but a matter of national security. And in those circumstances, nobody is above the law. Nobody is above the scrutiny of the state when it comes to national security matters, whether you be prime minister, minister, judge, journalist, or anybody else. Nobody is above the scrutiny of the state. And that is why we say that law-abiding citizens in this country have nothing to fear from intelligence agencies. The problem only arises if you are involved in activities that could be considered nefarious. That is how the state, there's no other way. There is no other way, and nobody is sacrosanct. The John Profumo matter came to the attention of the British authorities because of the actions of an intelligence agency. It was MI6, I think, that identified it, the counterintelligence agency. It was MI6 that did it. And that the way, and these agencies conduct their business in secrecy. What worries me is when the Prime Minister comes to the Parliament and makes a statement of that nature, and then takes action or to curtail the activities of the security agencies, looking at one side of the story, completely ignoring the fact that the major issue facing Trinidad and Tobago is the drug trade, and that those agencies have been pressed into service largely to deal with the drug trade. The SIA was formed in 1994. I think 1994 was the year, and it came about following the events of 1990, where there was a breach of the country's democracy. When the Jamaat al-Muslimin stormed the parliament, you all know that story. We looked at a number of models of the role and came up with a particular model, took a decision in 1994, identified Major General Ralph Brown as the head of the SIA, and he had the responsibility, and he discharged it well, of designing a structure for the SIA and identifying the equipment that the SIA would need to conduct its business. It was ordered, the administrative structure was approved, the equipment was ordered, and the PNM lost the election, so that when all of this came, the UNC was the government in power. It was the UNC in power at that time, and the agency was therefore set up under UNC supervision, under the supervision of the Prime Minister, Mr. Pandey at the time, a government of which Mrs. Kamla Prasad-Bissessar was an integral part, so that they controlled the agency for 6 years. And those were the formative years of the agency. And however the agency emerged, it was largely as a result of the actions of the UNC when they were in government, even though it was a PNM idea, and the initial steps were taken by the PNM. The actual establishment of the agency was done by the United National Congress. It's important, and at that time, Mrs. Prasad-Bissessar not only was a part, but was an Attorney General for a period of that time, member of the National Security Council. So the innocence that was feigned in the Parliament this evening is nothing more than that. It is feigned innocence. And if the Prime Minister was not aware of the existence of the SIA, then she would have been guilty of a severe dereliction of duty. And then you begin to ask yourself, who is responsible for the security apparatus of the state? Who is responsible if the Prime Minister will come and say, I didn't know? You didn't know what? What did you not know? I am saying, ladies and gentlemen, that we never authorized anybody to interfere in the private affairs of citizens, but the agencies have every responsibility to look after the legitimate work of an intelligence agency designed to protect the security of the state. I am very concerned that essentially the SIA is not going to be dismantled from what the Prime Minister has said, and they have dismantled the intelligence monitoring capability of sort. Intelligence required in the first place, because the method of policing that we were proceeding with is a method that was intelligence-led. That is an approach that has been taken by many countries of the world, and one third world country that has used that to severe advantage is Uganda. Uganda has used that to severe advantage. And may I also say that if today one is able, as I did some time ago, indicate that if anybody did kidnappings in the state, they will be caught. I was able to make a statement like that because of the actions of agencies like the SIA. They were pressed into service in crime fighting, and they did an admirable job. Trinidad and Tobago is one of the few countries in the world that can say we have virtually eradicated the crime of kidnapping. The SIA and intelligence gathering and SWOT itself were two agencies that put us in a position to be able to talk like that. And those agencies were set up because of problems with reforming the police service and so on. We will discuss these matters in Parliament in due course. I also want to draw to the attention of members of the media and the national community that I have been seeking to speak in Parliament for at least 1 month. The first item on which I wanted to talk was the, which bill? It wasn't the bill, it was the one before the bail bill. It was the anti-gang legislation. It first was put on the order paper, kept for 2 weeks, and when after I signified my intention to speak, it was removed. It was put at a lower priority on the order paper, and then the bail bill was brought up in priority. Last week when the Parliament concluded, we expected to come back to discuss the bail bill. To be advised this week that the children's bill will be given priority over that, and not just the children's bill, but also a finance number 2 bill will be given priority over it. What I notice is that whenever the crime agenda is due to come onto the Parliament's agenda, and that as I have already signified my intention to speak, that becomes relevant. The government takes action to frustrate it, as the Speaker took actions this evening to prevent me from speaking. All I wanted to do was to seek, I know that you can't comment on a statement by Parliament. I know it before the Speaker. I'm in Parliament much longer than he is. But I'm equally aware that you can seek the leave of the Speaker to ask honourable members opposite the government whether they would be prepared to waive the standing orders of the Parliament to allow me to make a statement in the face of the statement just made, the very extensive statement just made by the Prime Minister. I didn't even get a chance to make the request. As you all can see, the Speaker acted in a manner that was less than even-handed. Questions, ladies and gentlemen?